Our next speaker is Rasmus Kjaergaard, who is CEO at Mindway AI. Mindway supplies innovative player monitoring and responsible gaming solutions to the iGaming industry. Rasmus is here, I think, to explain to us how technical solutions can be employed to meet the requirements of the new Royal Decree. Rasmus, thank you for being here.
Thank you. So thank you very much for having this opportunity, giving me this opportunity, Willem. I'm, as Willem said, Rasmus from Mindway AI. For those of you who do not know us, we are a Danish-founded company focusing 100% on player protection solutions. So we do not do anything else than the solutions related to detection of at-risk and problematic gambling behavior and all the decision-making support of such. We are highly scientific based. We are spin out originally from Aarhus University in Denmark and founded by my colleague, Professor Kim Morrison, who is still part of our ownership. We are based on 10 plus years of research in neuroscience, neuroimaging, and problem gambling. As Peter Marcos from this stage already this morning mentioned, we work with the leading operators, including Entain, but also different divisions of Flutter Group, Holland Casino, and in general, gambling operators and other gambling industry organizations of all sizes, including regional and national operators in the jurisdictions and countries we are working in. Currently, our game scanner, which is the main part of my presentation today, do detection of 6.5 million active players a month, which also includes the number of players Entain have. And our solutions is currently running in 21 countries. The latest addition 2 weeks ago was an announced agreement with Tabcorp in Australia. So what I want to look into today, apart from presenting our two solutions, but I'll do that in the context of the Royal Decree on Safer Gambling, number 176 of 14th March 2023, I learned this morning. So we have two solutions we provide to the gambling industry and especially to operators. We have our game scanner, which is an AI-based solution in combination with human psychologist assessment, providing what I'm a little bit biased say as a sophisticated detection of at-risk and problem gambling behavior earlier, more individualized than typically detection solutions. And we have on the right side our neuroscience-based self-test as a card game, where we detect the decision-making process of the self-testing player when playing this card game. I'll explain it in a little more detail. So when I here say the Royal Decree, that is the number 176, just for the record. And if there is, apart from a little more understanding of who we are, if there is one message you should take away from this speak, that will be we are ready to support the Royal Decree when it comes into force on 1st of July. So that is important. So for us, doing detection of the gambling behavior, in particular, the Article 24, Section 1 is the interesting bit, because that says in the Royal Decree that the operator shall establish mechanisms and protocols to detect risky behavior of registered users, using objective criteria or indicators such as volume, frequency, and variability of participations or deposits. And the good news for us is that also the Royal Decree opens the opportunity for use of quantity or qualitative elements based on experience. If you can see, yeah, you can see for the chess. And that actually opens for the opportunity to not only do the bare minimum, but actually deploy a solution, kind of what is embedded in what Peter Marcos presented this morning, could be our game scanner. Because the way I see it is that there are two ways of solve this tricky bit, which is actually a tricky bit depending on how sophisticated you want to do it. But one of the quite often met solutions we see when we come around with operators in all jurisdictions is they do it yourself approach. And that kind of imposes the full process, the full value chain of developing solutions, not only developing solutions, also supporting solutions, maintaining the solutions. And it comes with all internal challenges in terms of the capabilities internally, resource scarcity, developers deployed to other projects, lack of agility, and so on and so forth. The other opportunity is, of course, to deploy an external solution. And one of those external solutions could be our game scanner. So when we developed this approach, actually that was the idea came from the medical world, using experts to train algorithm to faster read scans of brains to determine whether there was whether a patient had cancer or strokes in the brain. Along the line, we found together with the pathological treatment clinic at Aarhus University Hospital that this approach might also apply to at-risk and problematic gambling behavior. And that led to the approach, which is patent pending and which is now rolled out globally in our game scanner, where we ask psychologists to do the assessment of a sample of a gambling operator's customer database. We build this into the algorithm. We train the algorithm upon this, and we present the findings in the detection on large customer databases. And by that, we are giving the algorithm a very, very strong target to be able to do a much more individualized, earlier detection of the gambling behavior and markers earlier than actually it is kind of considered at risk. So that gives the operator a better opportunity to tailor the intervention towards something that can help keeping the customer database on a sustainable level. So it's quite sophisticated, granulated way of doing this detection. And to my understanding, we are at least the first, maybe also the only player protection solution provider who have asked GLI to test and validate their software. And GLI found that our, you could call it, virtual psychologists actually find find the same pattern as a human psychologist would, or same behavior in roughly 87 to 88% of all cases. Bearing in mind that human psychologists are not 100% either, due to the fact that they're human, and we also do make errors. So here's a small sneak peek of what we present to the gambling operator. On the left, we have the kind of dashboard of a full customer database with the distribution of the different risk levels, and also the average player profile. And on the right, we have part of the player profile. You saw the video from Peter Marcus this morning where it was kind of running. This is a static one in another pattern. Also important to mention, these risk profiles we have here is also occasionally adjusted in terms of practical deployment to accommodate science. And also that is the reason why we have submitted to be part of the Markers of Harm Standardization project as a company, a part of the Danish delegation there, referring to what Martin earlier this morning mentioned to us. So a little more specific about the Royal Decree, how we handle this. Obviously, we have two distinctions in terms of the gambling behavior. We have this intensive gambling behavior, which comes with some requirements. For us, this is kind of the easy part. And I need to tell you a little story about, I asked my tech guys earlier this week as preparation for this, guys, how long would it take us to put in the thresholds for this? We roughly estimate that we need 2 or 3 thresholds, and they estimated that to be 1 minute per threshold. So that kind of tells us that that's kind of easy for us. obviously, we provide the detection, monitoring, and messaging that is needed to support all the actions outlined in the different articles related to intensive gambling behavior. But as I'm warming up to is that the detection of the gambling behavior is much more complex in itself, because the way we see it and what we want to achieve with this was to have an earlier detection, supporting gambling operators to do messaging earlier, to keep the customer on a more sustainable level. And that implies that we want to do the detection more individualized on large-scale customer databases. And that is actually now what we have achieved with the game scanner. So we are able to provide this comprehensive detection of the gambling behavior, as I showed you before. And not only do we do this, we also promote the requirements in terms of individualized messaging based on the specific player's individual gambling behavior. On top of all this, we have all the requirements outside of the specific detection piece in the Royal Decree, the way we see it. First and foremost, there must be an active, safer gambling plan. That is kind of something we see in all jurisdictions. We support our customers on this. Operators shall have a self-test on its website, and we provide a solution for that, which is significantly different than the typical way to self-test, which is typically done by a questionnaire. We ask the player to flip 80 cards in a card game based on neuroscience theory. We measure the decision-making when playing the game. We provide the risk assessment afterwards and 3 specific advice to what to do about this. And this can kind of be part, of course, of the intervention plan and seen as in itself as a responsible gambling tool. Also, based on the comprehensive reporting we provide, we support the customer helpline on safer gambling, which is required, as well as the individualized messaging. In terms of training obligation and other parts of coverage of the safer gambling value chain, we are working on establishing different partnerships as a network of partners, where we, for instance, can provide training to fulfill the training obligation. The annual report, which is already a requirement, that's not a new, that's just more something repeated, would be a part of our game scanner software agreement. And future support for detection in land-based or retail gambling premises, if that would be relevant for some of you there, that is definitely possible. We have a lot of conversation going on in terms of both with land-based operators and omnichannel, and if we can get the data, likely with a player ID connected to it, we can do a meaningful detection on this. Finally, the decree outlines the intention or maybe a vague intention in terms of establishing a market-wide detection solution. At least our game scanner with its 6.5 million active players monthly on a global scale, developed and maintained by us as a scientific-based company, could be a capable candidate for this. That was kind of fast forward as I'm looking at the clock. I have 1 minute and 30 seconds to do questions.
Any questions to Rasmus here on stage? I mean, he kept a minute and a half, so any questions from somebody? So, if your detection software is already at the level of human psychologists, do you expect to do better than humans in the future?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, there's all this talk about the computer, the robots are coming and AI is taking over, isn't there, currently? Well, what we strive for is to do the best possible detection. And if that implies that we can leverage the level we have in the future, I will definitely, it would be stupid of me to stand here and say we wouldn't utilize it. But what we definitely will not do is deploy something that is not explainable. We are very much into that everybody who uses our software and should assess our software should be able to understand exactly how it works. We are not in the business of black magic AI, like I will not mention, but I'm pretty sure everybody knows examples of that. So I think for the near future, I can't see a situation where we will not have the human psychologists around. But if we can make another combination or leverage our accuracy even further, of course we will look into that.
We keep it for the crystal ball. Rasmus, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.